Okay, cool. In that case, welcome everyone. Um, Today we're going to be running our mentorship training session in collaboration with the Bytes Network, who have graciously given their time to tell us some tips and tricks from their experience as mentors. So a lot of the things that we'll be going over include things that are in the information package that we had sent out. So make sure if you didn't read that all the way through to do that at some point. But otherwise, we can get started. This is everything we'll be going over today. And I will pass it off to Brandon for the land acknowledgement.
Yep, just submitting someone. Yeah, thank you everyone, like Leah said, for coming in today, taking the time out of your day. We'll start off with the land acknowledgement. So McMaster recognizes that it's established on the traditional territories of the Mississauga and Haudenosaunee nations, and within the lands protected by the dish with one spoon wampum agreement. So yeah, personally, like I'm from Mississauga, so definitely it's a big part of like our culture here of to recognize the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nations. And yeah, we can move along to, I guess, quick introductions we'll do again. So this is for the people that aren't part of Nesme McMaster. This is a Nesme McMaster team, and everyone here has kind of had a hand in starting up this mentorship program. Of course, myself and Leah are the leads of it, and we have a new addition as well to the PCI team. But this is the greater Nesme McMaster team, which are able to bring you this mentorship program today. So yeah, if you don't know me, I'm Brandon. I'm one of the three now pre-collegiate initiatives chairs. In my third year of computer engineering, and Leah, I can pass it on to you.
Yep, I think we all probably know, but I'm the other PCI chair. I'm Leah. I'm in materials and I biomed. And my favorite song right now is Heated by Beyonce. So, Christine, I think you're muted.
Yes, I just realized that as I was speaking, the famous saying for the year. Nice to meet everyone. Christine Diaz. I'm one of the founding members of Bytes. And my background, I have about 27 years in the tech field. Part of that 27 years is mentorship, mentoring others, and being mentored as well. And my favorite movie is Terminator. I think I just dated myself. Next is my colleague, William.
Hi, how are you? My name is William Laverde. I am a founder of Bytes alongside Christine. I do apologize for not being on camera. I'm having some technical difficulties with my camera. I've been in technology for 24 years. I started a very, very long time ago. And I've been doing mentoring within our organization for about 6 years or so. And my favorite movie is American Pie. American Me. American Pie is also actually another one of my favorite movies, but American Me is the one I put on there. So there we go.
Great, awesome.
Yeah, so of course, before we get into a program like this, it's probably important to set some boundaries and some definitions. So what exactly does mentorship mean? So the textbook definition of mentorship is the guidance provided by a mentor, especially an experienced person in a company or educational institution. And the other definition is a period of time during which a person receives guidance from a mentor. So while some of us, of course, like we all are still students, but we are able to provide certain insights and perspective to the wonderful students that we are going to mentor within the GTHA in the next soon time. So definitely make sure to take the time to check out our resources and pay attention. We're also recording this session so that you can go back to it if you ever want to refer back to anything. And we have plenty of documentation for you guys ready if you ever want to have any other tips and tricks. So Leah, you want to take it off?
Yeah, so as for the mentorship program, if you haven't been told about this program so many times by now, here's a quick refresher. So it's the Afro-Future STEM mentorship program, which is based on the principle of Afrofuturism, which is a cultural aesthetic, philosophy of science, and history that, in my definition of it, aside from the one on screen, just imagines Black people and the African diaspora within STEM and all of the cool things that we can make with our culture in mind. And so the mission of the program is to do this outreach with grade 11 and 12 GTHA high school students who are looking to their next steps after graduation, so that we can give them a guiding hand, as we've been there before and we have great opinions and advice to share with them now at this point. And as we know, a lot of this takes place over our virtual platform, which is Discord, as well as in-person events.
Hopefully you can see my screen. I am advancing the slides and you can see my screen. I am showing you my mentor. He's in the spirit right now, so he's passed, but he is my mentor. So I thought I'd start with a quote from Miles Monroe, which is, "The greatest act of leadership is mentoring." And that's who all of us are. We're all leaders, whether or not we feel like we're leaders. There's always someone watching us, and we're always inspiring the next generation, or someone that's just, watching our journey. There's always someone watching us. So the greatest act in our leadership journey is to mentor somebody else. And the greatest accomplishment is a succession, which means we need to make sure we're replicating ourselves and someone is following our lead, whether or not it's through a mentorship session or just from watching our journey. We always have to be aware of the fact that we always have that lens on us and that we are all leaders. Okay, so through this session, I'm hoping that at the end of this session, you're going to feel a little bit more empowered, and recognize that you are a leader and that you are doing this great accomplishment by being part of this mentorship program. And you're actually influencing someone to be better than they are today. So I want to say congratulations for taking the time this evening to be a part of the session and to recognize your leadership qualities as well. Okay, so back to you, Leah or Brandon.
Yeah, so to take a sneak peek once again into what your guys' role is and your expectations as a Afro-Future STEM mentorship mentor, as we included in our information guide, what you're able to provide to these students is going to be academic advising from the unique experiences that we live. So of course we all know everyone goes through their own unique challenges through the admission process and getting into university as well once you eventually do get accepted. So of course that involves things like being able to, number one, like study and do well in your courses. We aren't a formal tutoring program, but if you are able to provide like professional, I guess, advice with, if it's things among the lines of like study strategies or places where you can get tips and tricks, great places like YouTube. There's different places like Stack Overflow. A lot of online resources are available that some of these kids don't know about, and we just have to think back to when we were in their shoes. We didn't know about them too much either. So at the end of the line, what we want to do is provide guidance and support them in navigating their career aspirations. And despite like us all being McMaster students as well, it should be kept in mind as well that these students are going to have anywhere from 3 to upwards. I don't even think there is an upper limit on the amount of institutions you can apply to. So definitely don't try to pigeonhole them into anything and keep things open in your support.
Yep, so next we'll just be briefly going through some of the conduct values. Again, these can be found in the mentor guide. So if you want more specific details, you can read there. So firstly, respect and empathy is really important, as well, active communication. And the thing with active communication that we want to implement is if your group chat on the Discord server is empty or just quiet for at least like 10 days, we really want you to reach out and ping them and be like, hey, how are you? Hopefully you'll be talking to them a bit more than that, but that's just kind of like the bare minimum of communication that we want. And as well, clear communication. Be aware of what abbreviations somebody may or may not know. Be aware that not everyone interprets tone over text the same way. Consider using tone indicators where appropriate, especially if you're doing like, you're saying something super sarcastic and somebody could totally misinterpret that. Just be aware of how you come across and be clear. As well, we want to keep most of our communication on the server positive, if possible. So that includes positive reinforcement and encouragement, and as well appropriate boundaries. as much as we want you guys to be friendly, you are not friends per se with these mentees. And so use your best judgment and reach out when you're a little confused of what is good to share and what may be passing a boundary as well. We want to offer guidance and not control, like Brandon was saying. We don't want to pigeonhole them into going to McMaster Engineering just because we are in McMaster Engineering and we like it. So you can suggest resources and offer your own experience, but try not to impose your own personal preference onto someone else. As well, cultural sensitivity. As I'm sure we all know, the Black diaspora is very diverse. And that means we all have very diverse experiences, also depending on where you grew up and where you went to school. And even things like my brother and I didn't have the same high school experience because of our different personalities and the fact that he is a boy and I am not. So be open to hearing other people's experiences and avoid making general statements that are kind of sweeping that maybe not everyone relates to. And yeah, keep an open mind as to what other experiences someone may have. As well, be flexible to your mentee's communication style. Some people might like super long conversations with like one message in succession with another, and some people might not mind having a conversation over the course of a couple days. So just be flexible. As well as try to support your mentee's professional development. Offer some of your guidance on like networking and career advancement. Share the resources that you have been able to come across, because that is one of our biggest advantages of this program is we have gone through so much in the last few years of just like information building on top of information building and gaining resources. And we would like to pass those on as much as possible. And lastly, safety and well-being is super important. And if there's anything distressing or anything concerning or that may become a concern later on, feel free to talk to us about it. And as well, we have some crisis detailing put in place for Afro-Future SM. And you can scroll through the mentor guide for more information on that. Now I'm going to pass it back off to Christine.
Great, thank you. We should be on the key tips for mentorship. And what we're going to be doing in this section of the presentation is William and I are going to tag team on this. And these tips and tricks complement what Leah and Brandon said earlier. And it's based on our experience and feedback that we've kind of experienced being either a mentee or mentoring others, okay? So feel free at any time to put your hand up if you have a question or if you want to put something in the chat. We are going to have breakout sessions afterwards, but I want to make this as interactive as possible. I want to make sure that you're getting the most out of this session, okay? So we thought we'd start with how to be an influential mentor, not just a regular mentor. As we know, we are working with our community and there's a lot of diversity and a lot of different lived experiences. And so we thought we'd start with thinking about how we can influence our mentees, okay? So number one, it's not about you. It's not about what you've gone through or what you're trying to accomplish. It's really the focus on the mentee, right? And really about that next generation of leadership, right? So when we think about mentoring, we always have to think leadership. We are leaders, but we're also training the mentee to be a very influential leader. So we want to influence that characteristic in our mentee, okay? William, did you want to take the next one? Or let me know when you want to jump in.
As I mentioned, what they need to expect from the session, it's always good to set a goal for your sessions and for the length of time that you have your mentor-mentee engagement. So within that, let's say if it's 6 months, within the 6 month span, you want to have a couple of goals set, it's milestones within that time frame. That way you are seeing progress and they're seeing progress as well within whatever it is that they are doing or whatever you're mentoring them with. You
Perfect.
can move on to the next one.
Sure. Yeah. And the mentee should feel free to talk about anything, right? So in some cases, you may get a mentee who doesn't open up very easily, and they may feel comfortable sharing something with you. And I like what Leah said earlier, that you're also going to provide some support, crisis support, in case your main mentee has a little bit of a, they express something that's it's not within your curriculum to discuss, right? We have to be real. You might have that encounter, so you need to be prepared for the unexpected, right? So having that crisis information available, I think, is really important, and not to shut them down if they're talking about something that you're not comfortable with. You can either say, hey, I'm gonna table that, and I'm gonna get you some information, or get someone else to come alongside us and support the discussion. So I think it's important to make them feel that they can talk to you about anything that might even go outside of your planned agenda. Okay. All right. And
Next
I would
one,
go ahead. Do you want to go to the next one?
yeah, sure. The mentee should feel motivated by your presence. Hmm. Yeah, yes, yes, they should feel motivated to meet with you and to exchange ideas, to ex to but ultimately, as a mentor, you're there to listen and understand what is and guide your mentee in the direction that they need to be going. But also, you need to ask those powerful questions of your mentee so that they find their path themselves. But the motivating you motivate them by just listening to them and giving them that opportunity to talk.
Yeah, that's a really good point, William. And the next one is to really give them hope for the future, right? So you may get someone who's very positive, but you also may get a mentee that maybe needs a little bit more of a push and then more encouragement, but always have that hopeful thought pattern, reminding them that they have a great future ahead of them, and that you're here to listen and to support their initiatives, and to provide as much guidance as you can within the time. Now, I do know that your mentorship program is being run through a different program. It's not necessarily a face-to-face discussion that you're having, but this is still relevant. You can still provide those key terms when you're communicating that will be more helpful to them, and remind them that they are champions, that they are winners, that they are great leaders. And even if you have to say those additional words to kind of emphasize it, especially when you're going to be communicating electronically, that's really helpful. Little happy faces, smiley faces, friendly faces, making them feel comfortable that, that they can be themselves. Okay. Okay, on to the next point. Did you want to take that one, William?
Yeah, yeah, sure. Do not manipulate or dictate. Hmm. So yes, you like I said earlier, this is more going towards guiding or inspiring them, but not influencing them in a way, right? So like the idea is to listen to what they have to say, ask powerful questions so that they find their path, they find their own answers, and all you're doing is influencing and inspiring them to achieve the goals that they have set for themselves. So a lot of it comes down to the work that the mentee is going to do to get to the point that they want to get to. So if it's like get an A in, I don't know, math, right? How are we going to get there? What are the steps that we're going to take? And how can we influence those steps so that you achieve that goal, right? So, and that would be a way to inspire them without influencing them.
That's great. I think that's awesome. So the next point is and I think Leah, you mentioned this earlier, to make sure that you have frequent check-ins. If you don't hear from your mentee, reach out to them and make sure that you almost have it on your calendar. You should probably put it on your calendar to say every week I'm going to reach out if I don't hear from them. Put a little reminder, I'm going to meet with you. Hey, how you doing? How you doing today? It's so important for our students to know that someone cares, right? So, I'm also part of the parent committee in Peel, and we're dealing with a lot of students that have gone through a horrible education experience where they were not valued. So in this role, we have to almost go out of our way to make sure that they don't have that same experience, that they realize we are different. When we're mentoring in our community, we're going to make sure that we know your name and that we're going to call on you and that there's accountability, right? We don't want our students to feel like they're going through the same exact experience when they're dealing with our mentorship program. So making sure that we're doing those check-ins. Hey, buddy, how you doing? Just checking in on you. Don't really need anything. Just want to know, have you thought about what we're going to talk about in our next session together? Or is there anything you want to ask me? Just letting them build, feel that they can trust you and that you are going to check in on them. It's a powerful thing. And that you know their name, right? Make sure you memorize their name and that you're calling them by their name and that they're not just a number. So I just had to spend a little bit more time on that just because I think it's so important that they realize they're getting a different experience and that they're excited about meeting with you and talking to you and you reaching out to them. So I think I've emphasized that one enough. So we can go to the next slide. Okay.
So action
So
plans.
go ahead.
We mentioned this earlier. Um, what do you want, so how do you want to track your action plans and follow-up activities? I think it's important that, again, you said milestones, you said meetings, regular meetings or impartial meetings, depending on how um, frequent or infrequent meetings, depending on your agreement with your mentee, right? So as long as you can communicate that, and as long as you're able to follow up with them and make sure that every time they ask you for something that you provide what they have asked you for within a timely manner, and also that you check in on them for their progress, right? Because everybody moves at a different speed, so you always have to make sure that those people, whatever you move at the speed that they move at, because they're not going to move at your speed, and you have to understand that as well, right?
Very good point. I really like that one, William. Moving at their speed and recognizing the different personalities. I think that's very important. So to the next point, staying positive at all times. You may get a mentee who's negative. I mean, both William and myself, I'm sure I've experienced that. And they may be in a complaining kind of a spiral. And it's important to know how to get them out of that. Like, don't go into the pit with them, right? Two people in pit can't pull each other out. So, even if they trigger you into a negative spin, something that they've experienced with, it's your role to get them out of that negative spin, and say, hey, well, let's talk about what we're going to do to prevent that from happening, or let's talk about what action plan we can do to help you overcome this. So, like, making sure you're always taking that leadership role to bringing them into a positive mindset so that they can walk away feeling like, hey, like, I was able to express myself, but I also have a plan to overcome that particular situation. So, making sure that you don't get into that spiral. So I think that's an important point. So to the next point, William, do you want to take that one?
Sure. Mentoring is not about making the person like you; it's about making the mentee better. I like this one because um, I'm not. Oh, so I'm a likable guy, right? I'm very likable. Everybody likes me. Very easy. I'm very easy to like. But the thing is, there are people who would not like me when they're speaking to me, for ABC reason. And I've had a mentee that was not really fond of me, but he respected me because of my achievements, right? So then he wanted to learn from me and for me to help him to get there. So yes, mentoring is not about people liking me, even though I felt kind of weird about it, and you will feel weird about it. But then you have to understand to the why that person wants to be your mentee if they don't like you, so that they expect something about you, and just understand their needs and their reasons for choosing you. So it's not about you, basically. That's what it comes down to.
Good stuff. Great. Thank you. Okay, so in the next section, we are kind of just wanted to talk about your first encounter. So again, I know that this is using a particular application, so a lot of it is on communication through messaging, but I still think that these points are relevant. So your first meeting, your first encounter with them, I would say make sure that you keep in mind that this is a relationship building. And William, I think you're really good at this. Just making it very informal, making it very friendly. The first encounter, hey, how you doing? What sports are you into? Just very casual conversation. They may be a little bit nervous. So, helping them get out of that nervousness by just talking about very, very simple conversations, and just making it very light. Okay. And just getting them to just relax a little bit. And you'll notice when people are more relaxed, they are more open to share. Their, 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 their objective opens up, and they're more open to, listening and collaborating with you because they feel comfortable. So that's the main goal of your first meeting. Okay. Did you want to take the next one, William?
Sure. Allow me to see your vulnerabilities and imperfections. Um, so your mentee is going to share information about themselves, and there's things that you're going to see that kind of relate to you, right? So share that. Share your points of view, your perspectives, or if you've been in a similar situation, share what happened, right? Not necessarily say, and I resolved my situation by doing A, B, C, but share the situation, so that to see that they're not alone and they're not the only ones in that particular predicament at that time, right? And that way you build that relationship, which is very important, right? Building that relationship and finding that common ground is it's key when it comes to mentoring. Not only mentoring, but actual relationship building as a whole. Finding a common ground is important, and you could always build from a common ground.
Very good. Yeah. All right. The third point here is to share your story. I think, especially like when I do talks, I find that when I share my personal story or a part of my story that's relevant, it really allows the mentee to feel like they can relate to you. They see the human side of you, and that you're not just this perfect person that has all the answers. Because I mean, that's going to create a little bit of a intimidation factor, and that's what we don't want. So I find it's just easy to just share a story, even a silly story. Hey, this is what happened to me today. Or, this was an embarrassing moment, or when I was in school, blah, 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 blah. Like I often share when I speak to students, I share about the fact that my first computer class in high school, I got a 55, which was my lowest grade ever. I was a straight A student, and I got 55 in computer class because I hated it. Okay. And I've been in tech for 27 years. Like, so your beginning does not mean the end. But when I tell that story, I find students just light up because they're like, oh my gosh, this person has been struggling. I'm struggling, but she still overcame. So it's my way of sharing that you can overcome something like that. You can get a poor mark in something, but that doesn't mean that that's not your future. So it's really important to kind of just let your guard down and share that story so they can be like, okay, I'm with someone that's not so perfect after all, and that just kind of lightens the mood. So that's what I think works really, really well. All right. So next point, William.
All right. So one quick thing, I'm gonna share something with you. It's kind of funny though. I'm a Spanish speaker, so I'm fluent. I failed grade 11 Spanish in high school.
Whoa,
Yeah,
that's
and I'm native. Like I'm a native speaker. 100% fluent, and I failed. So there's you know there's failure, but you turn around, you get up, dust yourself off, and move on. Um, So
Yeah.
what is important to establish is within your first meeting, right? One thing is don't jump in. I'm going to touch on this, but don't jump in right into that conversation. Okay, so what do you want to be mentored on, or what do we want to get to? Each conversation that you start with talking about just random conversation. Talk about Drake. Talk about whoever. It doesn't matter. Like basketball, football. Talk about the Bills cleaning snow, like the paying their fans to clean the snow. Talk about whatever it is you want to talk about for a minute before you actually get into the actual conversation. And the reason why you want to do that is because that builds, again, that helps to solidify and build that relationship. And that tool that I just gave you, that's a gem because that you can take that throughout your entire life. I sell a software for a living, right? Well, with through work, and I never talk to my customers right away about whatever, about what the reason I'm calling them for. We talk about a minute and a half about anything. We talked about cooking. Today I talked about making grilled sandwiches for like an entire minute, right? But at the end of the day, it relaxes whoever it is you're speaking with, makes them not be anxious. So whatever anxieties they have, it, you know, brings down their guard. And yeah, so ask them about their roadblocks and their challenges, but also share your roadblocks and your challenges because that is also powerful along the way, and it'll help them to see you as more human, that you're also in the same boat. All right.
Awesome. I like that. I like that, William. Yeah, start the conversation very, very light. Sometimes we start our sales calls and it can be very intimidating because you've got all these C-suite members and you also have people who are doing the work, right? And they are a little bit intimidated by their own leadership that's on the call. So, yeah, that casual icebreaker, just talking about the weather or where we live or some crazy story in the news, it really does change things. So, thanks for that, William. The next point is together, write an action plan of how to overcome roadblocks. So as we had mentioned earlier, we may get a lot of mentees who have challenges and roadblocks. That's one of the main reasons why these students look for mentorship, right? They feel like they need that extra push. So it's important to document those challenges, but also come up with an action plan together and say, what do you think you can do to overcome, this particular situation or to build up your confidence or to, learn more about leadership, whatever the case may be, and kind of do it collaboratively. So it's not like you dictating, hey, do this, do this, do this, do this. I think that's the last thing they want is someone telling them what to do. But if it's a more collaborative, then it's more like a team type of an exercise, and then they feel like they're a part of their journey and making a decision to write that action plan together with you. Okay. I don't see any questions in the chat, so hopefully everything's clear. If you do have a question, feel free to put it in the chat. I know we have Q&A at the end, but feel free at any time if something comes up and you want to make a comment. Okay. Last but not least,
So
William, do you want to take this one? Okay, go ahead.
yeah, so when there's a difficult issue to discuss, do not answer there right away. Um, that's absolutely true. Do not answer anything. When there's a difficult issue and you don't know the answer to it, because we don't know the answers to everything. We're human. We don't know all the answers. So if you don't know the answer, always excuse yourself and take it away. But one thing that you could do is you can ask that powerful question in regards to what do you think the answer would be, and let them think about what the solution to their problem is, because you're there in a way to see mentorship and coaching is kind of one-on-one. It's kind of the same at the same. They go together, right? Yeah, they go very well together. So when somebody comes with a difficult issue that they're currently having, right, it is better for, instead of you telling them what to do and giving them the answer right away, that's not going to help them, because it helps. What really helps somebody is to teach them how to fish, not give them a fish. You know what I mean?
That's right.
So helping them to work through the issue and to understand what it is that's happening, and to help them to find a solution that they are working through and building upon, because that way they will be more resilient and they will be more confident, because it'll build their confidence. So like at the end of the day, that's what you want to do. You want to help them to build up their confidence to move forward.
Very good. Love it. Great. All right. So now we are moving into the breakout sessions.
Hi everyone. This is Leah putting together the recording now. So if you're one of those people watching the recording, first of all, thank you for actually watching it all the way through. So this is the part of the training session where we went into breakout rooms and we had discussions based off of the questions that you see on the screen right now. So I would encourage you to pause, think about what some of your answers to these might have been. We're not going to be like checking that you're answering these, but just so that you kind of think about how you might act as a mentor in some situations, it would be helpful to reflect. So I would encourage you to pause now, think about that for however long you need, and then we're going to jump back into our closing.
So now we're at the Q&A. So this is just an open Q&A. We did the breakout sessions to kind of get everyone talking and talking about their experiences and what feedback they can give. But this is an open forum. Just, allowing everyone to either put their questions in the chat or come off mute and ask a question.
I have a question.
Sure.
How can people contact you and William?
Oh, very good question. I actually did not put it in the presentation. The best way to get a hold of me is probably my LinkedIn. So I like when you connect with me on LinkedIn, but you can send an email. William and I are here to support you guys. To some of the participants, it's their first time being mentors. Some have never been mentored. So sometimes it helps when you're mentored, because then you see how it's done and you know what feels good, and then you just continue. But if you have never had that experience, you may have additional questions. So yes, feel free to reach out to either Brendan, Leah, or myself and William. We're both parents as well, so we've both raised some adult children without giving away our age. So we're able to give that expertise as well. So. All right. Any other questions? Any tough questions? Anybody have a tough question?
Hi there.
I
So I know when I was mentored, one of the things I struggled with was, I guess, having a direction and making the actual mentorship useful. A lot of it was just kind of like roundabout conversation that didn't honestly lead anywhere. And it was until really the end of my mentorship that I kind of realized, like, oh, I've kind of like not really taken this to my advantage. So like, how can you kind of advise us as mentors to kind of, I know we said like goal setting, but like actually like pushing them to really get the most out of this relationship and this conversation without necessarily also like forcing them down paths that they might not actually be curious about?
well, I'm going to start and then I'm going to pass it to William. One of the things that when I was mentored, that I really loved his style was that he made sure I set the agenda, because I'm the mentee. So having your mentee on their first encounter, ask them, what is your objective? What are you trying to accomplish? It makes them dictate what they want to get out of the session. And then you have the accountability factor. Every week you go through and get that action plan. And every week you use that same action plan and say, okay, where are you on? We said we were going to do this. Did you get that done? How can I help you to get that done? Blah, 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 blah. So I think for them to get the most out of the session, they really have to say what they want out of the session. William, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, so I'm gonna echo the same thing, because it is absolutely true. The mentor has no, as a mentor, um you have no say, really. It's all about the mentee. The mentee is the one that knows what they want, what it is that they're looking for. If they're looking to progress, let's say if it's a work related kind of a mentorship, if they're the ones that are looking to progress to the next level. So they're the ones that set that agenda, like Christine said. All you're doing along the lines is helping them meet the goals that you will establish with them. One of the things that you do need to do as a mentor Let's make sure that the goals that they set are smart goals. And I
Yeah.
know you guys heard this in school. Your goals need to be smart goals, right? What is it? Attainable. I don't know what the S is, but
Achievable.
anyway. What? What is the S?
Achievable. No, the
Smart.
S,
Yeah. I don't know, but we have to
sustainable.
set smart goals too at work. I just don't know what they are. But yeah, whatever smart goals. Make sure you're able to achieve those goals, set those goals, and so that they can be successful. Because if they're setting goals that are like unattainable, they're going to be disappointed, and they're not going to find the experience any useful to them, and they're not going to be motivated to continue doing it. Because mentoring is not a one-time thing. Mentoring is a stepping stone, and from there you gotta become not only their mentor, but eventually you could be potentially be their sponsor, because the sponsorship is what really kicks down that door.
It's
But
true.
that's down the line.
Good. I like that. Sorry. That's good. Any other questions?
Someone put it in the thing. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. That's it. And time bound. Yes. Awesome. And that's why I think it's so important to have that list. Because when I was mentored by my last mentor, he made sure he documented everything we talked about as far as goals. And then he would make sure that we kept on target with those things. So I felt like I got what I wanted out of the session because he was making sure that I was doing everything that I said I was going to do. And because I knew I had to meet with him regularly, I made sure I did that. Right. So I think that's really good. Thank you very much for that, William. Any other questions with 2 minutes left?
Just on that note, it's not, I don't think it's up yet. I think we still need to add it, but on the topic of mental health concerns, unfortunately, it's not quite within our scope to deal with them ourselves, obviously, as we're not really equipped with the tools for that. But Brandon and I are working together to make a resources tab with crisis lines and resources that are available, and hopefully some things that are like low cost as well and accessible. So when in doubt, make sure to refer to that. And for any other situations, it's probably going to be a case by case thing. So we can talk.
Exactly. So not to get
Yeah, most
into, not to try to be the doctor, but to get them to calm down and say, I've got some resources, I've got some numbers that you can call, and remain calm, right? Like you said, you're not there, we're not trained in it, but you do have to be prepared with the fact that you may encounter someone that has you're the only person they feel comfortable talking to for the day, and they have a little bit of a meltdown. So you have to be the calm person, and you have to have, hopefully that number will be available before you guys start this program, to say, here's a number for you to call immediately. There's some they've got some expertise to help you. So that's perfect. I think that's great. So I think that's the end of our session. We want to be respectful of everyone's time. So thank you very much. This was awesome. Hopefully you got a lot out of the session. I'm going to pass it back to you, Brendan or Leah, if you had any additional last words.
No, yeah, we just wanted to thank you both so much for allowing this session to happen, for being great hosts to us and sharing your invaluable knowledge about your mentorship journeys, your journeys as both parents, mentors, and mentees. That's definitely very valuable to all of us, and I'm sure a lot of people got a lot out of that today. But yeah, guys, like to all of you, thank you so much for coming out. Like once again, thank you for taking the time out of your day. Thanks, guys.
Great. Thank
awesome.
you. Have a good
Thank you.
evening.
Goodbye.